What's up, everybody, and welcome into Good Karma Wrestling, our Elimination Chamber special. Along with Bryant Rowitz from ESPN West Palm, I'm Jonathan Hood from ESPN 1000 Chicago, and our partner Gabe Neitzel, well, he lost his voice when he found out that Carmella was eliminated from the Women's Chamber, so we won't be having him tonight. But nonetheless, we are here for you because of the Elimination Chamber, the event taking place in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And don't forget, every Thursday, we're on from 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific. We're on every Thursday to give you the best in professional wrestling conversation. Don't forget to find us on YouTube or Twitch or Instagram or the podcast. Just look for Good Karma Wrestling available wherever you get your podcasts. And Brian Rowitz, I have one question for you to start off the show. One question about Elimination Chamber. Where in the hell was Kevin Owens during the main event in the match between Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns for the Undisputed Championship? It's okay to just be able to linger and just kind of come out, but where were you during the match to help your friend Sami? Where was he?
Yeah, and that's the thing, but you still sort of had those little moments where you don't really know if they're still buddies at this point. I was waiting for that embrace because we didn't get the pop of Sami winning the title and blowing the roof off the place. Those two hugging would have been just as great of an ovation, but there's still those sort of seeds right there where you don't really know what's going on with those two.
Let me just tell you something right now. That crowd in Montreal was absolutely amazing. We saw this on Friday nights leading into where we are tonight with Elimination Chamber. But let me tell you, bro, that thing was great. Just all of people singing Sami Zayn's theme to fuck you, Roman chants. That was just unbelievable. The adulation for Sami Zayn and just for the event is one of the best that we've seen in such a long time.
Yeah, I mean, the reaction and the crowd buying in before those two locked up tonight. Like, they were so into it. This was that big match feel. We were texting about it. When was the last time a WWE crowd felt like that? And it's been a long time. You and Gabe both came up with stuff that was over a decade ago.
Yeah.
And they were into it. They were into every false finish. They had me believe it. I bought in. I thought tonight was going to happen. We talked on Thursday. I'm the one that's sort of been pushing for Sami to be champion. Like, I don't think so. They had me. I thought tonight it was going to happen.
Only because you see the buildup, right? It felt like Clash of the Castle the same way with McIntyre. Maybe people didn't think that McIntyre could win, but I was really more invested in that matchup, feeling like, yeah, this is the time because of the build. WWE, they reeled us in again. They made us believe, like, hey, this is in the hometown of this guy. There's no question that guy's going to win the championship, and it did not. It happened to McIntyre, and it happened to Sami Zayn, to the point where if the WWE keeps going in this direction, anytime that you have this big build and you feel like a contender can win, we're always going to be pessimistic because it happened to us twice in the Triple H era.
And the other thing I would say, if you're WWE, something to be worried about is at the end of that match, that wasn't heat towards Roman. That wasn't, booze and, garbage in the ring, a la Hogan joining the NWO.
Yeah.
That was just silence. That was the air sucked out of that building, which isn't quite what you're looking for. And I think that is something the WWE has to be a little bit worried about right now.
So what did I tell you, bro? I said, think about it. On the marquee, Sami Zayn against Roman Reigns. Does it sound like Sami win the championship? Well, as we said on Thursday, I gave him something like a 30% chance, right? Only because maybe Triple H is going to do something different than he did with McIntyre. Maybe, just maybe, Sami Zayn can come out of there with the championship and then figure something out with Zayn and with Rhodes and with Roman. That was not the case. Unfortunately, we are going to get, Cody Rhodes against Roman Reigns. But I will tell you this, Roman Reigns, a complete heat magnet. I mean, here he is, Roman, talking to Zayn's wife in the crowd. I mean, he's doing stuff that wrestlers do in house shows usually, right?
Right.
Chatter, because there's no cameras. You got time to have a conversation, a cup of coffee with the audience while you wrestle, that kind of stuff. He's still doing that. There's no mic. There's no mic for everybody else to hear. He's just there to have a chit chat with everybody. It's not only Sami Zayn's wife, but fans around the rail just talking to him. It's like, hey, I didn't want this. It's amazing.
Right. And even the little moments of him just sitting there with Sami crawling on him, where like, you ruined my life. Like those two having that conversation. This is one of those matches from a WWE standpoint is going to be hard to be topped in 2023. The emotion, the storytelling, like that wasn't a WWE style match. Like there was so much that went into that. I don't know how they top that the rest of this year.
Yeah, it's a good question because we got to get to WrestleMania. That's in 6 weeks. How are they going to be able to top it's more to the match. And this is what we talk about all the time on the show. it's more than just the match.
Mhm.
It's the build. It's the moments, right? WWE is all about moments. They'll try to maybe throw in a 4 or 5 star match along the way, but that's not what they're shooting for. They're shooting for the moment of people. As soon as that music hits for Sami Zayn,
Mhm.
that place explodes. I mean, Ariel Helwani before the matches in the pregame show, he's the last guy on there talking about how much Montreal means and how we don't have champions. Like, he sold the pay-per-view more than anybody else in that panel because he's like, I'm from Montreal. We don't win championships. And here we are. Sami Zayn, this is our son. We want him to be able to win the championship. And it falls short. But you're so right. The volume went all the way down to about 2 or 3 at the end of that
Mhm.
because it was way up high past 11 and then went right down to 2. But here it is. So Superman punch, Haluva kick, Blue Thunder bomb, 2 ref bumps, and still Sami couldn't get the job done.
Right. No. And you had the Uso parts. Where's Solo, by the way? Did we miss that part of the story? Like, why is he not out there? So, like, you have that. You had the Jay part, which, interesting that it wasn't the obvious of Jay turning on Sami, and you sort of had those seats planned. Now, everything worked to perfection tonight. I got my hopes up. The crowd got into it. And now, I mean, the path to Mania, like we've talked about, it feels like a letdown. Like Roman versus Cody, sure, it'll be a great match. Those two will
Sure.
deliver. But is the crowd going to be as into it or even half as into it as they were tonight's match?
Well, it's in SoFi Stadium, so what kind of sound will you have? At
Sure.
least this is in a stadium at the Bell Center where the roof was blown off, but people are still into it. You don't get that same effect in big stadiums. But just to kind of pick this match apart. So not 1 ref bump, but 2 ref bumps. Holy,
Yeah.
Ric Flair versus Dusty Rhodes. Do you really need to have 2 ref bumps? But they did to have that to tell the story. But so there's still some things that I'm wondering about. You mentioned Jey Uso, right? So Jey Uso could not pull the trigger and
Right.
hit Roman in the back to help Sami win. I mean, so I'm not only am I pissed tonight at Kevin Owens for not coming out sooner. I don't need you at the end of the match. I need you in the match. Like if you hate Roman, the Roman is the same Roman that beat you. Don't you want to screw Roman? No, you come on afterwards and get your stunners in that was stolen from Stone Cold Steve Austin. My whole thing about this is like, so why didn't Jay pull the trigger? Is
Right.
Jay still part of the bloodline or not?
Yeah, and that's the thing. So there's still plenty of storytelling to go, but now Cody just sort of feels ancillary where it's like, hey, we don't really want to hear. We want to see more of Sami. We want to see Sami and Jay stuff. And yes, if we go down the path of Sami and KO versus the Usos, that's going to be a great match. Honestly, it'll probably be the match of Mania of both nights. Those 4 in the ring in a tag match, that match will deliver, but it doesn't have the same steam. It doesn't have the same moment as you talk about of Sami frickin' Zayn winning a world title. Like, that's not happening now, and that's a letdown.
I know that's not what you wanted because you've been saying this for months,
Yes.
that you did not want to see the combination of Owens and Sami against the Usos. But it seems more and more likely that that's going to happen. Like, if a championship's going to change at WrestleMania, it might be the tag team championships. And again, that's undersold because how many days have the Usos have the championships?
Right.
Well, but again, I'll ask you again. Like, so by the time WrestleMania is ended, will Jey Uso still be part of the bloodline? That's the question.
I'd say yes at this point. I think somehow, like, he's upset with Sami and, like, reads into something, or, like, the KO part will play into it. So I would say yes at this point. The Solo part is interesting because he just sort of feels there. And, like, is there a big moment for him? Does he get a Mania match? So that's the interesting part also. Like, there is still a lot of story to tell with the Bloodline, which I applaud them on that regard.
It's fine, but I mean, the build up for Sami Zayn was so big though, and
Yeah.
if you weren't sure, SmackDown on Friday night sold you everything you need. Well, anytime
Yes.
that there's nervous there and Montreal hitting the dump button over and over again, the screen goes black. I'm like, hey, what's going on here? And thank God for Twitter. Thank God for GKW _ wrestling, our Twitter feed for Good Karma Wrestling, so I can be able to go look at the feed, the international feed, to
Mhm.
find out exactly what was said.
Right.
More FU Roman chants, more of that, right? That's why Fox was very, nervous about
Yeah.
that. Like, okay, I can't have that. But it's just, they sold you, man.
Mhm.
If Sami wins the championship, just say what if. Say Jey Uso gets the chair and hits Roman and screws Roman just like Sami did, and Sami wins the championship. What happens at WrestleMania then? Say Sami wins. Now what would happen? 3-way?
Yeah, I think three-way at that point. And even then, like Cody winning, like great. Like I'd be okay with it then. Like Cody winning now and Cody being the one to end the reign, the 900 plus days, feels like a letdown because it's not like Cody's been chasing this. Yes, we get the Dusty story, which is something I think doesn't connect with the whole audience, especially the younger audience, because they don't know who Dusty is. They don't know that Dusty was never able to win the big one. So to me, it feels like a letdown to where this was built. It fell into your lap where maybe this wasn't your intention from day one when you started doing Sammy Bloodline, but it worked out. And I feel like they dropped the ball tonight, not pulling the trigger.
And by the way, because you see this, is it similar to Drew McIntyre? I can never believe them as heavyweight champion now.
Sure.
I mean, I know it's just one defense, but it's like, it was just the kind of dream that I think that a lot of Daniel Bryan fans had, right? They had to wait well over a year for him to even be WWE champion because people kept rooting for it. The same thing with Sami Zayn. And again, I will point out again for our new audience here, what was so unique about this is not Bryan Danielson having to go through a gauntlet of 5-star matches to get to MJF and AEW. Nothing wrong with that booking, but the difference is Sami Zayn did it by turning on Roman and never having to get in the ring and like wrestle 3 or 4 times to lead into Elimination Chamber. It was just all emotion. It's all, video clips, all of his interviews that he did, and all the gift to gab to lead up to Elimination Chamber. He didn't have to put his body through the wars of wrestling a ton to sell you on the pay-per-view. It's Sami Zayn who felt like he was disrespected by Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman. And on the other side, it's the guy, it's Roman Reigns. The champion's been there for 900 days. And I just thought the story was great. And it will continue to go. That's going to be great to see.
Yeah, and to that point about Sammy the wrestler, like I think it was easy to forget over the last year, 2 years of how damn good of a wrestler Sami Zayn is. I mean, his Mania moment last year was a giant mousetrap with Johnny Knoxville. Yeah. And like he delivered because he's a great character and he's able to do those things. And character is the word that, you and Gabe would throw back at me. Like, oh, Sammy's just a character. Like, we don't really need him as the world champion. And he built that up. He showed what he can do tonight. Every part of that match was fun. I would have liked a little bit of blood. I know WWE doesn't go down that route, but I think that would have added to it even more, like a bloody Sammy in the middle of the ring. But just an amazing match of those two really just delivered tonight.
You don't get blood, but you get a big red scar up the chest. I don't know where that came from. You get a nice scar.
Like he had a surgery during the match. Like what was that from? I don't understand.
I don't know, but he got a nice. I mean, you don't get blood WWE, but you get a nice scar if you need one. That's for sure. The men's elimination chamber, and again, you can follow along at GKW_wrestling on Twitter and Good Karma Wrestling on Instagram. Bro, we saw with the United States Championship on the line. And the one thing about the Triple H era that I really like is that the Intercontinental, the United States Championships, both singles championships matter. They mean something. For guys that can put their bodies through what they went through for the secondary championship, the United States Championship, I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, that's the thing. I didn't really have any sort of, excitement about this match coming in. But by the end of it, and the ending sort of sucked, but like, every one of those guys sort of got their chance to shine. Like Damian Priest getting a "This is awesome" chant. Bronson Reed doing his part. Like that was a fun match. I wanted to see Montez Ford get the win. I thought it was sort of his chance to sort of get that push. Logan Paul and Seth Rollins will deliver at Mania, but it just felt unnecessary in this match. Like Theory as champion is like, okay, great. We've sort of run its course, at least in my eyes. But that was a damn good match and not really what I expected coming into it.
Well, here's the things I discovered watching the U.S. title elimination chamber match. And I knew this before, but it was solidified today. So Austin Theory has the shittiest finish in the business. He does. No, I'm serious. Like that's the worst. I don't know what that's supposed to be. I think it's a transition move more so than, oh my God, you put that, or if he puts that whole anchor on you, that whole knee thing that he does, boy, that's the end. No, it's not the end. It's the shittiest finish in the business. It is.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Like he felt like sort of the bottom of the barrel of this match. Like Montez sort of had his moments. Priest, like I just don't know what the end game is with him. Like him versus who at Mania is sort of that moment, unless they just go him versus Montez there, and that's when he wins the belt. Like there's no clear Mania path for him right now with the belt.
Well, here's what I do know. I know why he's in place because he gets heat. I mean, he's like the second or third most most of a heat magnet on the show, because anytime he comes out, hear that terrible A-Town, whatever that is. It's like, oh, it just takes the air right out of the room when he comes out, right? But that's his job, though. I mean, he is a heel. Damian Priest is one of these guys that I've watched in the Indies and then watch him now in WWE. Bro, it's boy, he is, to me, he's a future singles champion. Mm-hmm. I just think that him being part of this faction only helps him even more so. But he had some really great moves in this match. I'm a Damian Priest fan from way back, and I think that he can really be a future champion in this company.
Yeah, really good showing for him. And another one that, we talked about, Johnny Gargano. We've talked about his booking, and since his return, it's sort of been lackluster. But tonight, they just let him go. They just let him wrestle, and he showed why he is Johnny Wrestling. Like him and Rollins one-on-one to start that match. I think a really good moment tonight for Gargano. Hopefully some momentum to build off of for him.
And Rollins is just as solid. I mean, that's going to be the anchor. That's not a surprise what he did in there. Bronson Reed is like Bam Bam Bigelow times 10 because of the kind of moves he does. Like you knew, all right, you got a big guy in there. It's kind of like Raquel Rodriguez, except, good. So when Reed, when Reed, hey, she's got a nice back though. I mean, she
smiles.
Back.
Don't forget she smiles.
She's a heel. God damn it, she smiled. But you see Reed out there, and he's just flying all over the place, and you love a guy like that because the big guy moves around like a cruiserweight. He's using his body. But this is where there's a little Shawn Michaels Triple H magic, right? So I'm thinking, oh my God, Bianca Belair is going to be a widow here because Montez Ford, who, what Montez Ford is, before I even get to what happened to him, Montez Ford to me is a 1990s WWE tribute band.
Okay.
Like it's one thing to be able to hey, this guy's going to be a single star at some point. Bro, it's how many crotch chops do you have to have in one elimination chamber?
And a people's elbow.
What are you doing?
Right, yeah, that's fair.
You're trying to pop the truck with that? I mean, that's what he's doing. Just like Triple H is just like, he's using my move. I like it. Okay, so how many crotch chops you have in people's elbow? Like, you're a 90s tribute band. What do you do, Montez? Like if you do it once, it's like, oh wow, okay, I remember that. Now he's getting fired up. If you keep just crotching your chop and then getting a clothesline, it's like I don't understand what he's doing there. But I love the little NXT magic that we saw. I'm talking NXT, the old brand. Montez Ford is laid out flat, and he's not getting up after he gets the 1, 2, 3 count put on him. I'm like, oh, there's something wrong. When officials come out, referees come out, it's like, oh, and there's silence in the building, right? It's like, oh man, like he's got some kind of concussion or whatever,
right?
And they just do it just to open up the gate to let Logan Paul in.
Right.
As far as I can tell, I don't know if you see it on your Twitter. I think that Montez Ford's fine. I think they did it just to open up the chamber so that Logan Paul could do what he did to Rollins.
Yeah, and they were starting to plant those seeds, I think, through social media and other interviews of Rollins talking about Logan Paul. They had their Rumble moment. So, again, I think that's a match that will sort of deliver. It felt like a letdown because in the ring, so many of those guys delivered. Logan Paul has earned his keep in the ring and what we've seen from him. But I don't know, that ending sort of took it away from me a little bit from that match.
Well, it scared me because I thought Montez Ford was really hurt.
Right.
That's why, I didn't know. Until they opened up the chamber, I didn't know. And then you see this clown come through there like Logan Paul. I'm like, oh, okay, I got it. But I was a little concerned there for Ford at first. And so, it was fine for what it was. I liked it. I did not dislike it. I just think that, Logan Paul coming in there clearly is setting up for a Logan Paul Rollins match that we are not asking for.
Right, exactly. 100% agree. And also, Gabe just texted us, presser going on right now. Theory throws out an open challenge for Monday. Edge says he'll accept since he'll be in Ottawa. So Theory versus Edge for the U.S. title tomorrow or Monday night.
And that gives us a nice segue to my guy, Edge. I'm an Edge fan. I'm an Edge. I love Edge. I love to see Edge out there. Edge and Beth Phoenix, and they get the job done against Finn Balor and Rhea Ripley. And so this match was better than I thought it was going to be.
Yes, agreed.
Now, did Beth get a little lost there early? Yeah, a little ring rust. Okay, that's fine. But it's better than I thought it was going to be. And Beth Phoenix, so here's what happens in a match like this. You don't expect much, and then they over-deliver. And now I want to see Rhea Ripley against Beth Phoenix.
Sure, yeah.
Whenever. I just want to see that match just one time.
The only thing I would say though is like talking about Mania Pass, like it feels like Edge and Finn is sort of on that path, and if this feud's ever going to end, did tonight really make you want to see more of those two in the ring together?
I think that's the end of this, is it not?
I feel like they're going out of the Mania. I mean, the rumor has been Hell in a Cell with those two.
Edge versus Finn Balor?
Yeah.
It'll deliver. I just want to know what the end of this is.
Right, because it doesn't feel like there is one, and it's one of those where it's like, all right, like we've seen this time or two at this point.
I mean, if that's going to be the end, if that's the blow off should be in a cage or some kind of specialty match, and that we can end this thing. You know, I mean, this has been going on for a while. Like, hey, Edge, you built a shitty Judgment Day, and it was not good when he was in it. And I'm an Edge fan. I'm just like, okay, this is the worst gimmick you've ever been in. Like, because you went from babyface to heel like in 2 seconds.
Right.
Remember this?
Uh-huh.
Like his like,
and then back the other way just as fast, like after they dumped him.
Well, right. It's just like, okay, so my God, holy Big Show. How quickly was that, right? That just didn't make sense to me. So if they're going to blow it off, bro, I'm totally fine with it. Just end it though after this. If the blow off is WrestleMania, that's fine. But if it's Edge and Finn Balor one-on-one, you know it's going to be a good match. You may not want to see it, but you know it's going to be fine.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I think, like you said, tonight definitely over-delivered, especially, based on expectation. So it was a good, fun match. It was a card that we talk about the crowd. They were into it all night. And obviously it was all the anticipation of Sammy, but the crowd being so into it, there really were no lulls in this night. And that goes a long way in a wrestling show.
Well, let me tell you where a lull was. If I can tell you, if I told you that the worst match on this card would be Lesnar and Lashley, that's actually not such a bad thing. Because, I mean, listen, I don't like the finish. That was pretty bad. Because, I mean, just here's Lesnar in peril. And the Hurt Lock's on him, and he can't get out of it. And so he's got the old trick knee, as Bobby Heenan used to say, the old trick knee right to the balls of Lashley, and then disqualification. It's like, come on, brother.
Yeah,
that's all you got. I mean, so Bobby. So let me get this right. Brock Lesnar can't lose the Elimination Chamber,
right? Well, we talk about heels and faces.
Okay,
what's Lashley?
He's supposed to be he's supposed to be a heel in this situation.
Is he? Okay, like, so he's the sympathetic heel that's winning by DQ. Like, I don't understand that part of it then.
Okay, well, this whole thing I don't understand because, like, if you hit somebody in the balls and then do what he did to Lashley, is that the mark of a heel? Is that the character of a heel?
And then the other weird caveat is last night you have Bray calling out the winner of that, and then not having Bray show up tonight.
So what does that mean?
Right, because it's one thing you had that match and then Bray comes out, and like when I heard that, I was like, oh, Bray versus Brock could be a fun Mania match, but now where are we? Like, this one makes no sense. I don't need any more of these two in the ring. Bray is still just sort of out there and, no man's land at this point. Like, yes, that was definitely the low point of tonight's show.
Okay, so I'm just going to give it out there, especially if Vince has something to do with some of the booking here. I'm hearing that he's over the shoulder of Triple H. Have you read that too?
Yes, Meltzer threw it out there that he's got his finger a little bit just on the pulse of, especially the main event scene.
Yeah, that's why Zayn lost tonight.
Yes.
So here's the scenario. Vince has something to do with it. So Bobby, Brock, you've got Uncle Howdy,
okay,
and your other guy there, his
Bray.
buddy.
So you do a tag match, so now I guess
4-way dance. That's what you have there. Tag team. You're gonna get all four. Gotta get all four there. Bray, Brock, Bobby, and Uncle Howdy.
Okay, good. And then we find out Uncle Howdy is Bo Dallas.
That's right. Because you got a Bo leave. Now you got 4 B's in there.
Yeah, Bobby, Brock, Bray, and Bo. There we go. There's your Mania marquee right there.
Yeah, I don't know where this is going. I mean, so obviously it's going to be a lot of power moves, and we saw that from both. I mean, a couple of spears here, a couple of F5s there. So it's going to be pretty physical. But I didn't expect that to be the finish. I mean, that's a great finish for like a Raw or SmackDown. Right. But again, I always say maybe I'm old school, but just on an event like that, someone has to be getting their either tapping out or getting a 3 count. I didn't like that.
Yeah, that match did nothing for both those men. Like, no one gained anything towards that. No one gained anything of like, okay, hey, this is a legit challenger for something down the line. Like, it just was stagnant for both those guys.
And a long build to a DQ.
Yes.
So if that's the worst match on the card, I can do with that. I just
Sure.
didn't like the finish. But then you get the women's chamber matchup. And how fantastic. You've got Asuka, who gets the job done. Morgan, you got Nikki Cross, Natalya, Carmella, Raquel Rodriguez. They're all in there. Carmella's in there as well. But I'm very surprised that Carmella's there at the end. Did not
Yeah.
expect that.
No, not at all. I agree with that. I mean, they made Liv Morgan look pretty strong. Like, the match was good. We all sort of knew Asuka was going to win, and that's why I feel like, just throw it out there first and just do the thing that way. But overall, I think a decent match. And Asuka versus Bianca, like, I'm on board with that. Like, that's a match that can main event one of those nights of WrestleMania. It won't, especially when Charlotte's in the other women's match.
Yeah.
But those two have the potential to steal the show at Mania.
Yeah, would not surprise me if that's the opener. And by the way, in wrestling parlance today, opener, middle, it doesn't really matter. But back in the day, if you were the curtain jerker, it's like, oh man, you're in the first match. It doesn't matter anymore. I mean, wherever you're slotted, you can have a really great match. And I think with time, I think Asuka and Bianca could be really, really good. I would agree with that. I was very impressed with Morgan and Nikki Cross. I've always been a Nikki Cross fan. Like, I didn't like it's funny that Cole mentioned the broadcast. It's like, she's a former Raw Women's Champion. And I was thinking to myself, was she really?
Right.
That really wasn't her. That was ASH, which was awful.
No, this Nikki's awesome. Like, I love this character. Like, I think back to, like, to me, one of my favorite Nikki Cross moments is that NXT match with Shayna where she gets choked out and, like, is smiling as she's getting choked out. Like, she's just a great character. She delivers in the ring. And tonight, a good chance for her to do the same.
And Liv Morgan, as I told you on Thursday, there's a little bit of a turn in Liv Morgan.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, like, okay, let's dissect this for a second. Is Liv Morgan so strong that she can't submit? She has to go to sleep?
Right.
Oh, I didn't know.
With two submissions.
Yeah, I didn't know that she was Roman.
Right.
Wow. Keep Liv strong, brother. Like,
I guess so. That part was definitely interesting, but hey, she's continuing to grow and develop, and that's pretty cool to see.
I like Liv as a little bit of a heel there. There's a little spice there that I like. Now, when she was champion, not as much. She was working with Ronda Rousey, was she not?
Right. Yes.
That's the problem.
Yes, 100%. Now, I feel like the biggest challenge for WWE moving out of this is how do you continue to develop the rest of the women's roster? We know they're going to put time and effort into the 2 title matches, but are the rest of them just going to get thrown to the wayside in some random ass battle royal? Like, how do you continue to build the rest of them?
Well, that's a good question. Watching the Royal Rumble, the women's Royal Rumble, I saw some matchups, some really good matchups for us. I was telling you that you said, you watch this, and it's more than just seeing people go over the top rope. When they're matched up against each other, you can look at it and say, oh, this might be a good match down the line. So I still believe, based on what I saw from the Royal Rumble women's match, there's a lot of talent there. It's just about the booking. It's about how you put them together. And so, because I think that this show criticizes the women's roster a lot for WWE, and then we saw how much talent they really had, and so that really rang the bell for me and said, "Boy, there's women here. Just gotta put them in the ring."
Right, and that's the thing. They're very top heavy. Both title matches, Rhea and Charlotte, Bianca and Asuka, they're going to be great matches. But how do you develop the rest to where after those matches there are credible challengers? Because you don't want to get stuck like we see on the men's side where it's Roman and then a whole lot of nothing. Like, you have to be able to build everything around that.
So from everything that we've talked about here, and Sami Zayn was just the roll of the dice to me, just like Drew McIntyre was the roll of the dice, and whether or not in his home country he can win the championship. So what happens now, bro? What happens now? I know we got WrestleMania right around the corner. What can the WWE do to be able to further this storyline? Because now that Sammy's pushed out, it's not like Sammy's coming back on Raw or SmackDown and said, I want my rematch. That's not happening. You had your one shot. You didn't get the job done. Or Kevin Owens didn't get the job done, KO. Why didn't you go and help your friend? Why didn't you help your friend? And hey, Jey Uso, you had all this opportunity. You had, 20 minutes as you were holding the chair? Why didn't you crack him? Why didn't you crack Roman so Sammy could win the championship? So Sammy got screwed twice there, and then screwed 2 more times because 2 ref bumps. Well, okay, so now all that's to the side after tonight, right? So what else can the WWE do to convince us that Cody Rhodes is the guy? That's the
I
question.
I don't I don't know, because it's been months we've talked about the sort of the path to Mania being Cody beats Roman to finally end the run, KO and Sammy beat the Usos, and it feels like we're still there. And yes, at times predictable works, and when it's obvious, like, it's fine. But now it just feels like a letdown to where I don't know if fans believe in Cody. Yes, the young audience is gonna cheer and clap, but we're going down that path of him turning into a Cena or him turning into a Roman where fans are like, you know what? I don't want to cheer this guy in a suit. Like, I don't see me in Cody Rhodes. And that's a risk they're going to have to take or really step back and be like, you know what? Maybe this isn't the right path right now, but I just don't feel like that's going to happen.
We'll take what used to be called your viewer mail. If there's any comments, we'll take
Yeah.
some of those as well from Twitch, twitch.tv/, Good Karma Wrestling. We'd be glad to take yours. And also on YouTube, we're on YouTube as well. Look for Good Karma Wrestling there. Vikram says a predictable ending, but what can you do? Well, I didn't predict that ending. We did. Look, maybe we thought Roman was going to go over. We just didn't expect it to look like that.
Right.
Well, hey, KO, if you're standing in the back seeing your friend getting screwed, what are you going to do about it? You're going to come out at the end? But his appearance didn't mean anything afterwards.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. And you didn't even get the hug between those two to sort of add to that as well.
Ace Camacho says he wants to give.
KO wanted to give Sammy the moment. Also, Ace Camacho, the crowd was all in from the start and made the entire show feel important.
Well, you're so right about that. And again, it starts from SmackDown, though. And if you watch Friday night, if you weren't sure if you're going to get the event, well, that go home show was just tremendous.
Yeah.
Because, and by the way, I didn't do my homework for this. I did not know SmackDown was going to be in Montreal.
Yeah.
It was in Montreal, right?
Yeah, same place. Yeah, same.
Yeah. So I didn't expect that. I thought it would be like in Quebec City or someplace else, and then they go to Montreal, go to a different province. But boy, they had back-to-back shows, and I think the crowd toward the middle to the end, where you started seeing lulls in the match, it wasn't as hot as it was at the beginning. But think about all the times that you've seen like two wrestlers on either side of the ring, and they haven't touched yet, and the crowd's on their feet.
Yep.
When's you seen that?
Especially in the WWE. Like, it's one thing to see in AEW or other places, but we don't see that a lot in the WWE.
Inspirados on Twitch, he says, I don't get why they just can't split the titles and have a payoff for Sammy and Cody. Well, you're just preaching to the choir. I mean, Broach has been on this, and Gabe's been on this for a long time to split the championships. Triple H is in a corner right now because he's thinking, after all this time, what can I do to split the titles? There's one thing you could do. You could do it old school. An authority figure like Adam Pearce comes in and talks to Roman. It's like, oh, Roman says, nobody can beat me. I've got these championships. I'm in God mode. Nobody can beat me. All this stuff, right? And all of a sudden, Adam Pearce comes out, and Adam Pearce says, okay, well, you're on this show, Raw. You're also on SmackDown. Looks like you have 2 championships. Yeah. That makes you the undisputed champion. Well, tonight you're going to fit in against so-and-so.
Yeah.
And it's out of nowhere. I don't have my gear. What do you mean? I'm in God mode. You can't do this to me. I'm the tribal chief. All this stuff is like, nah, you got to do it tonight. And then he loses against whomever, whether it's KO or whomever, and he loses that Raw championship. And he's a SmackDown champion, and then you can go from there. There's a way to do it.
Event both nights of Mania. Sammy one night, Cody the other. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, Sammy winning, then you add to Cody. Like, there's just so many ways you can do it.
It's just that, And they can do it because Heyman has got 2 championships. He's hemorrhaging, trying to breathe every week. Just like, I think it's a rib on him that he's got to have those championships and still do a promo. Like, those things are heavy, aren't they?
Yeah, poor guy took a stunner tonight. Rough times for Paul.
Gerald Reed says, I was almost waiting for GSP to jump the rail. Yeah, that's another story. So there you have GSP, the great UFC fighter. He's there, right?
Uh-huh.
And Ariel Helwani is there. And boy, there's controversy around him. We can unpack that just for a second. So Ariel Helwani, who I watch on his MMA podcast, and he does a great job of being able to include wrestling in combat sports, which I think is really cool, bro. I think it's great that he's like, okay, this UFC guys, I'm tired of them for the week. Let me bring in a Tony Khan. Let me bring in Sami Zayn, Triple H. He's had some terrific guests because he's a wrestling fan like we all are. But the question for some wrestling fans is, did Ariel Helwani cross the line by even being on WWE program.
Right.
He's in the crowd for SmackDown because he's in Montreal. He's with all the crazy fans. He's doing the pre-show. He did a voiceover, I think, for WWE for something.
For an awesome Sammy video package, yeah.
Yeah, and so Tony Khan gets on Twitter, the head of AEW, just like, hey, you're a phony reporter, just like Tony Schiavone. I don't know why he threw Schiavone into the bus. I think that was weird.
Poor Tony. Well, people are also upset because when he had Tony on, he pushed him out the brawl out stuff. Tony didn't answer. He said the legal issues. Then he calls out Tony for not answering that stuff.
Yeah.
But then when he had Triple H on, there were 0 Vince McMahon questions.
That's correct.
So, maybe not the most 100% unbiased.
Yeah, and so, but Michael Cole made a point of it. Said, there he is, Ariel Helwani, a very unbiased reporter. Well, of course, because he's doing the bidding for WWE. Of course, he's unbiased in WWE's eyes because he's on the panel. He's doing voiceovers. It's like, wait a minute, right?
Yeah, so weird. Lay off Twitter though, Tony. You don't need to be involved in that.
Dude, seriously. Robert 5480 says that match was awesome. He said it was an awesome match, and I thought Elimination Chamber was good.
Yep. Yeah. It was a good show overall and really delivered.
Evil says that Jay could have taken the Rock spot and fought Roman for the head of the table. I think we might be headed to that.
Yeah. I just feel like whoever ends the reign, you need a little bit more sort of story behind them, and Cody doesn't have that right now.
Yeah, Soul Brother number 5 says that they let Montez lose in a strong way, so he'll definitely get another shot at the U.S. title, and Seth will focus on Logan for WrestleMania. Well, again, we believe that Montez Ford can really be a good singles wrestler. I don't think there's any question that the talent's there, Broitz.
Yep.
I just need to know outside of his moves. I mean, is he going to stand up and do crotch chops like DX? He's going to keep doing that? I mean, that's the question. Like this '90s tribute. I mean, what else is he going to do? Is he got the the fist up for the Nation of Domination? Does he have what else? What else?
He'll be doing the worm on Monday night. Stay tuned for that.
And don't put it past him. He can do that. I think we've seen.
Probably could.
Yeah. That's the problem. He's going to do that too. I mean, that's the whole thing. So I don't know, but I just think that there's some interesting things going on in WWE as they head to WrestleMania. I'm just very intrigued because they keep telling us the bloodline's fractured. Bloodline now. Jey Uso's over here, but Jimmy's definitely close to Roman, and Paul's close to Roman, and so is Sikoa. Did not see him tonight at Elimination Chamber. So what's up with that? And by the way, we have confirmed now that the Usos got their visa problems straightened out because they were in Montreal, right? That was a question. That was real. That was real, wasn't it?
It was, yes. Not how they broke it down, but hey, they got there. So congrats to them for making it north of the border.
So because of how Roman was able to beat Sammy, and again, the screwiest of screwy ways, in 1989 almost finished the way it was just 2 ref bumps and all this other schmaz to be able to get him the championship. So with Cody Rhodes, I look forward to week after week the build to convince us that Cody's the guy. Because if Cody's not the guy, then we might have to wait until Philadelphia for WrestleMania for The Rock. And even if it's The Rock, what does that really mean? Like, this is where this company is, where it's good storytelling. You got one great storyline, but all the contenders, Roman's beating all of these guys. He's stronger than Hogan. He's stronger than he's like San Martino level. He's Pedro Morales. All these great WWE champions, right? But Cody Rhodes, what can they do to convince us that he can be able to be the guy? And a Luva kick could not do it tonight, bro.
No.
But could he? But yeah, could have flip flop and fly and elbow and a crossroads get it done against Roman? That's the question.
And it just doesn't feel as special. I mean, Cody winning, yes, it's cool as a wrestling fan to see a Rhodes ultimately get that title, especially if he brings back the winged version of the title. That'll be an extra pop on that Monday night. But I don't know. Tonight was special, and tonight is something that it's going to be hard to top the rest of the year. But the letdown was definitely there once that 1, 2, 3 was had.
All right, my friend, it's time now for the match of the night. What was your favorite match, and what was we know what your least favorite is because I think we have the same. But who was the match of the night and the MVP of Elimination Chamber in Montreal?
So it's funny. My two favorite matches are both sort of hampered a little bit by the end: the men's elimination chamber and the main event. But I do think the main event of Roman versus Sammy, everything that went into it, the crowd buying in, the false finishes. Yes, there are things I would have liked to see go different, but that match was so fun. And to me, the MVP is Sammy. Like, he deserves this. He earned this opportunity. He got himself here because of his storytelling, because of his, getting guys to laugh throughout, bloodline promos and things like that. Tonight was a great payoff for Sami Zayn.
I would agree with that. I would say that Asuka's a close second.
Okay.
I just think that she was fantastic in that women's matchup. And again, it did surprise me that Carmella was there. I was wrong. I thought Natalya would be first to be eliminated. She was not.
Yeah.
There's a Canadian factor there that they let her in for a little bit. I was surprised. I was wrong.
It's because the Canadians get confused every time they hear the start for music. Like, oh, Brett's here. It's like, oh, Natalya. Every time.
I think, you know what? I think Brett was running opposition in Calgary. I think he had a show. Because he runs a show. He has a company in Calgary. I was looking at it. I was on GKW_wrestling. It might be retweeted by now.
Okay.
I think Nick Aldis is the champion.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so that's probably why he was not around. So I just knew it wasn't going to be him coming in. I was very impressed. I marked down I was impressed with Priest and also Bronson Reed. And I also think that Edge is very close as well as one of the MVPs. That match with Edge and Beth, I did not expect that match to be good. I just thought it would be, filler.
Sure.
But boy, they all gave a great effort, and that shows you, man. You don't have you have a long time to fill. They filled it with long matches and commercials on Peacock.
Gotta love those commercials on a premium live event.
Can I just tell you something? For someone who's been watching wrestling for a long time, that's still a disconnect for me. I mean, how many pay-per-views, how much money I paid for, bro? It's for pay-per-views where it's just like, here's the open, and here's the match, and the match, and the match, and the match. And that, like that, I mean, to be able to have long-form commercials I would watch on cable TV on this pay-per-view, it's like, dude, I should be settled in and never leave my seat. On the WWE pay-per-view, a live event, you know what? Bathroom break. Hold on.
You get a lot done. You can still do, get the laundry done, still put the kids to bed throughout the show because there are plenty of breaks and long breaks. I mean, 6 entrances in an elimination chamber. There's plenty of opportunities throughout a show like tonight.
I mean, my God, man. It's just like these long commercials. I'm like, I just want to get to the main event. Why do I have to wait another 15, 20 minutes for the main event? Like, I understand the storytelling because there's some first-time viewers just like, okay, why are we having this match? But the commercials in there too?
At least there was no concert tonight, so kudos to them on that.
Thank God there's no commercial, that's for sure. Well, hey, don't forget, we're on every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific. You can find us on YouTube as well. Look for Good Karma Wrestling there. Same thing with Twitch, twitch.tv/Good Karma Wrestling. We're also on Instagram at the same handle, Good Karma Wrestling. And don't forget our podcast. Wherever you get your podcast, look for Good Karma Wrestling. Again, we're on every Thursday. We have pop-up shows like this one. We want to provide you with an Elimination Chamber special for Montreal. And it was supposed to be a celebration of Sami Zayn becoming the WWE Undisputed Champion. And for Broets, there he is crying because he didn't have his guy winning the championship. Oh, well. Well, for Brian Rowitz and for Gabe Neitzel, who lost his voice because his Elimination Chamber for the women's side did not come through, this is Jonathan Hood. Thanks for checking out Good Karma Wrestling. We'll talk to you Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific. The best in pro wrestling conversations right here with